Or okay, can you hear me, Tanya? Hey, Alyssa, Kathy, can y'all hear me?
Hi.
I hear someone. There's Alyssa.
There's me. Hi.
Hey, can you hear me okay, Alyssa?
Yes, and your lips are matching your voice.
I know,
which is
right?
Fantastic.
It's already been a great session just for that reason alone.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I see Kathy Bullock. Can you hear us? We can hear you, I think, Kathy. And there's Roseanne. Hey, Roseanne.
Hey, Regina.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
Great, thanks.
Glare here. Okay, there we go. Freezing.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay. It's just been a cold day for everybody.
It has been. So glad to see your beautiful faces. Okay. And you know, we're already doing so much better than last week with our tech issues. My video and audio match. I see some cute faces. Now, Lynn Kaylee was going to get help, so God help her. I hope she's able to join us.
You don't see me?
There she is. I talked to you.
Am I doing it right?
I'm so excited. You're in the car.
Yes, ma'am.
Not driving though.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm just sitting here in the car waiting on Kevin at some point. But I didn't want to be walking around, so I'm here.
Okay. I'm so glad to see all you ladies. How's everybody feeling this evening?
Awesome.
Great. Now, before we get started, and you know, I love that all of you joined by video so that we can bond and see each other a little bit. You know, it's okay if you have to be on audio. I love that we get to see each other, just like we saw Kathy put on a robe or blanket or whatever she was putting on a second ago. So now I'm going to look. I'm looking first. We're going to recap a little bit of last week. So everybody, welcome to session 2. We're going to really talk a lot about beliefs. I wanted to talk first about if anybody gave some thought to, and Kathy, I'll get you a workbook. I'll send you a digital workbook. The homework, the information we talked about last week, on page 26 of the action guide, where are you now? Thinking about what's working in your life right now and what isn't working in your life right now. So did anybody have a chance to give a little bit of thought to that and have something that they wanted to share? It's okay either way. I just wanted to see if anybody had any insights to what is working, what isn't working, what's frustrating, where can you grow in the different areas.
Regina?
Yes, ma'am.
So I gave it some thought, and I appreciated the question. Some things that are working for me are relationships with family. Focused on that, focused on making sure that those relationships are good and solid and everybody feels loved. What's not working for me is truly developing great relationships with my friends. So I feel like that I shortcut my friendships sometime, and I don't want to be that person.
That's interesting, and I know, and because you shared that, Lynn, I guess it's okay with you if I share that's something you and I have spoken about.
Sure.
That you wanted to work on that this year, and I mean, what a great thing to work on, because how many times have you guys gotten to the end of a year and thought, I only saw so-and-so once, I saw so-and-so twice, and I didn't see this group of friends or this individual at all. And I think that because life is so fast-paced sometimes, we get away from our friendships and some of our relationships. And it's something to think about. Thanks for sharing that, Lynn. So that's something, some relationships are working and some you're working on, some friendships.
Yep.
I love it. Anybody else have a challenge or something that's working?
I do, kind of. Something that's working for me, I've always had a really positive outlook on life in general. I'm usually a very optimistic person. And I'm just a happy person all around. But I find that the part that's not working is I have limiting beliefs about myself. I have an easy time seeing all the goodness out there, but not necessarily all the goodness in me, if that makes sense.
It sure does.
So I just have a lot of like this class I'm super excited about, and the book has been amazing. Just having a different self-image, really seeing myself in the way that I should be seeing myself versus the way that I have been viewing myself, which has been just limiting me from the beginning. Like you had said last week about you can't outperform your self-image. So whatever you view yourself, that's your top, that's your cap.
Right, that's the ceiling.
Exactly, and I am very unsatisfied with that. So I'm very excited for this class to make a new self-image because I've got some high hopes for myself. So I'm hoping that this can be a good stepping stone to get to where I want to be.
And isn't that so fascinating? And I did a class today at Lynn Cayley's office at the Snellville Market Center, and we had such a great time. And it's so funny that every time I teach this class, I get so many new awarenesses about that because, Alyssa, I can see all the potential in the world in you. To me, you are warm, you are wonderful, you are beautiful. I think there's nothing that can stop this girl. And it's interesting that we can see that in other people, and sometimes we can't see it in ourselves. And the very truth of that is I couldn't see it in you if it weren't in me, and you couldn't see it in me if it weren't in you.
Right.
So that's something that has brought a lot of joy and a lot of peace to my heart around that. Yeah. So last week we talked about, and so Lynn, this might be a little bit of a repeat from today's session, just to reiterate to everyone that there's two parts to our mind, right? We have our conscious mind, our thinking mind. We can choose our thoughts, be they positive or negative. And then underneath that in our mind, we have our subconscious mind, our emotional mind, where our habits, our programming, our vibrational frequency lie. I was having a conversation after class with someone because someone said vibrational frequency, you sort of touched on that. All we do is give off and receive energy all day, every day. I mean, that's all we do. And I was explaining it like I did in class today, Lynn, to this person after class, that it's that moment when you meet someone and you instantly like them. And it's also that moment you meet someone and you're like, I don't know about this person. All we do is transmit energy all day long. And people pick up on that. And that energy that we give out is really whatever our self-image is, whatever we think the most about ourselves, our dominant thoughts, that's what we're emitting out to other people. That's what they're picking up on. That's why sometimes we just click with people. We have matching energy frequencies, and sometimes we don't. So yesterday, it seemed like yesterday, last week we talked about the overall self-image just being a collection of ideas and beliefs about ourselves. And so many things placed in our self-image happen without our permission. A lot of it in our childhood. And we put ideas in our own self-image based on how people have received us, based on our conditions and circumstances. And I love this, and this is what we'll get into, that some of these beliefs that we hold about ourselves, not all of them, some of them are not even true, and we are walking around living our life as if they are true. And that's what's holding us back the most. I was saying that in our class today. No one else is sabotaging us. No one else is putting limits on us. We put those limits on ourselves. And that's what we're going to, I don't know if in 4 weeks we can really do a deep dive. I'm hoping that we can scratch the surface of some of these ideas. Beliefs. Gosh, beliefs is such a fascinating, interesting topic. I couldn't stop. I was bringing out books all over the place on beliefs. If you looked in the workbook for this section, it gave a little snippet about beliefs. Beliefs are stored, as I've said again, in our subconscious mind. So they are just below our level of awareness. And most of the time, we're not even aware of what we believe. And here's the scary thing. We don't even know why we believe it. If we had to sort of take some of our beliefs about ourselves and just about others, and we actually had to run those through research, most of those would be unfounded. They wouldn't stand up to the scrutiny. The trouble is, though, most of us never stop to think about, why do I believe this? And that's another reason why it's so great to be in a community like this, in a group like this, because even if you take one thing away from this program, and that's, I should stop and sort of examine my beliefs. Why do I believe this? And I know some of you are reading along in the book, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And that chapter 4 I wasn't even going to go in this order, you guys. I got wrapped up in chapter 4 a few days ago on dehypnotizing yourself from false beliefs. We think, did you read that?
Yeah, that was fascinating. I thought it was just amazing. Yeah.
Wasn't it though? So Alyssa, let me throw it to you for a second. I've got a few things underlined. What did you have something on your mind right now that sort of stuck out?
I liked the example of, because I've always viewed like hypnotism, like, you know, you're on the stage, they do the whole thing and you talk like a chicken or whatever. But the hypnotism, it really is just this belief. And so, you know, him talking about how this super strong man, you know, he tells him that he can't pick up a pencil. And because he believes that thought, his muscles actually respond to that. He actually cannot pick up the pencil.
Isn't that crazy?
It's wild. It's completely wild. So it was interesting to just, I don't know, to view that in my own life, saying if I'm telling myself and truly believing what I'm saying, then anything is really possible.
Right.
I'm really captivating myself because I mean, I always say I'm not a people person. I'm just not a people person. I'm an introvert. And I just keep telling myself that. Well, yeah, of course, when I tell myself that, I don't like people. So I just don't like people. But I don't think that's really who I am. I just keep saying that and I just believe it. So I'm ultimately hypnotizing myself to be a non-people person.
Isn't that interesting? We hypnotize ourselves all the time. And that's what I couldn't get over in this chapter. And I had one of the lines underlined that said, what the hypnotic suggestion did was to overcome a negative idea which had previously prevented him from expressing his full strength. There were so many key insights. I love when he writes, the power, the basic ability to do whatever the thing is, it's always inherent within us all the time, even before we meet the hypnotist. So if the hypnotist tells me I can do something, that basic ability is already within me. The subjects, however, were unable to use this power because they themselves did not know it was there. That was so, I mean, I read that line over and over again thinking, what am I missing from here? And in the next chapter on rational thinking, okay, because all of us are in real estate, this right here stuck out to me that I wanted to talk to you guys about and get your feedback on. On page 80, Alyssa, I don't know if you looked at rational thinking yet or any of you.
No, not yet.
Maxwell Maltz says that one of his patients who was a salesman was scared to death when calling upon a big shot. His fear and his fear was overcome in just one session because Maxwell Maltz asked him this question. Would you physically get down on all fours and crawl into this man's office, prostrating yourself before a superior person? And he's like, of course I wouldn't crawl on all fours and pretend like this person's better than me. And so Maltz says, then why do you mentally cringe and crawl?
Oh, wow.
And I thought, holy smokes. So anytime we think, okay, how do I approach this person? Because we were talking about it a little bit in class today. One of the young ladies said, you know, I used to be scared of how do I approach, I'm not a college graduate. How do I approach people that have graduated from college? And then that led me to remember what somebody there said years ago about, you know, taking one listing at 150,000 and then taking another listing at 1 million, how sometimes we're scared to go after the big shot listing. And someone said, and I said, what's the difference between a $150,000 listing and a $1 million listing? And someone said, the difference is square footage. And that stayed with me forever. I thought, oh my gosh. So sometimes we're like, okay, I'm kind of scared to go approach this person because they're wealthier than me. They're smarter than me. They're a big shot. Why are we, and we would never, ever in our right mind think, I'm going to get down on all fours and I'm just going to go to them like a little puppy dog on my hands and knees and crawling. We were like, no, we would never do that, right? That's what we're mentally doing. Wow. That's what we're mentally doing. When we think, how can I go approach this person? Wow, they're so much more successful than I am. They're wealthier than I am. They've been to college and I haven't. Anytime we say that right there struck such a nerve in me. I mean, I couldn't fall asleep after I read this a couple of nights ago. I thought, that is exactly what we do. We mentally crawl when we don't think we can approach someone because they're superior to us. Is there really such a thing as inferior and superior?
I don't think so.
No, No. When I did a class back in October at a few market centers called Rules of Engagement, and I talked about living your most authentic self, and one of the things I said was, hey, you guys, no matter what else we do, here's what I feel is the way to live most authentically. I said, this is what I know for sure. For all my mistakes and for all my flaws, here's the one thing I got. I'm not better than anybody else, and no one else is better than me. And if we can start with that belief in terms of self-image. I'm sorry, what'd you say, honey? Did somebody say something? Okay, I didn't know if that was like that right there is a game changer because in terms of self-image and in terms of approaching people and getting around this inferior superior, because that's where a lot of our limiting beliefs sort of are around when we think about ourselves and other people. Sometimes we think so-and-so is so much better than me in so many ways. The most authentic version of us is when we can be comfortable. We can be comfortable no matter what else is going well or not going well, is the starting belief, at least for me, I'm not better than anyone else and no one's better than me. And that right there to me is core. That is just core truth. And that is something that we can take and push forward around the rest of our beliefs. Because we hypnotize our own selves into thinking that we can't do something. And then we think, okay, that hypnotist or something else I'm going to go is going to de-hypnotize me. So I love this conversation around inferiority and superiority because it's a lose-lose, right? If I think I'm inferior to someone or superior, you're in that judgment mode. So if you want to, I think one of the big things to really work on belief change is coming from that one spot. Allow that to sort of be the starting point. Now, what do you girls think about that? Because I think all of us at one time, at least on the inferior end, may have felt that way once or twice in our lives. And how do you feel about, maybe you're there now, maybe you're not. How do you feel about using that as a starting point?
I think we get overwhelmed. I think, can you hear me, Regina?
I sure can.
I think we get overwhelmed in thinking that we can't. When, how can we do what she did or he did? How can we get to that point? How did they get to that point?
Right.
And then it gets so overwhelming, you just say, nah, I can't do this. And you give up before you even start. I think that's what a lot of people do.
I think you're absolutely right about that, Tanya.
Do it a little bit, but we're too scared to move to the next level.
That's one thing that when I teach Ignite, one thing I really love talking about is they see all the mega agents in our office. You know, people like Kathy Bullock, who's on with us tonight. All those people that are in like the top 10 or the top 20%, Matt Hermes, Christy Wilkins, a bunch of them, Dominique, a bunch of them. So they throw around these names in Ignite and they'll say, gosh, I can never be like that person. Well, here's the good news. You don't have to be. We didn't bring you in here so that you could be like somebody else. I think, Tanya, we're hypnotizing ourselves to think that we have to be like other people. That's to me is the false belief, not the other way around. The false belief is I have to be like so-and-so, whether looks, money, real estate success, whatever that is. I made a little note here, some things I was thinking about as I went through this chapter again. And I wrote down that it's the grand design of our Creator that you have certain gifts and abilities, right? And that I have certain gifts and abilities. So it begs the question, why would I measure me against you? And why would you measure you against me? Because I think all of us are women of faith in some respect. And just think about how many different kinds of people, we're all different shapes, sizes, and colors. That's part of the grand plan. So with the intention as women of faith, why would I think the Creator would want us to be the same? My path will be different than yours. And I think that is, we're kind of like almost brainwashed in a sense as a culture. And I think women in particular, I think we suffer from this more, that we're sort of brainwashed, that we're supposed to be like the other women, or in our market centers, we're supposed to be like the other agents, when It's against the grand design. We've just been subject to this way of thinking for so long. I think that's what it is. We have such pureness when we walk into this new arena, especially as babies, right? Because we talked about this last week. We're not born with our beliefs. We didn't show up on the planet as little babies and had these beliefs within us. They came to us over time. And what's interesting is we take it as gospel, as truth. And so we go living our lives, oh my God, I'm supposed to be like so-and-so, when that's not the truth. The truth is we're not. And I think we're overwhelmed because we're not living in the truth. We're not living in the truth is what makes us overwhelmed. We've hypnotized ourselves to believe that we should be like other people. And that's the real work, I think, of the rest of our lives, is dehypnotizing ourselves. That's why I love chapter 4 so much, is it really talks about, gosh, we think the hypnotist helps us do something we otherwise wouldn't do. No, the hypnotist is actually dehypnotizing us in some ways for the hypnosis that you and I have already fallen under. So why are we comparing and judging when we're supposed to be different? And it's not because we're bad people, because I've gotten to know all of you in bits and pieces, and this is a great group of women. So, that's just my thought. After reading Maxwell Maltz' chapter 4 and really just thinking into this, I thought, wow, we've fallen under some false beliefs. We're hypnotized in our culture by and large.
So much of what I read into it too was it's going on beneath the surface. We're not even aware of it. So we really need to work hard to be intentional and not be driven so much by we're not driven by it. We don't even realize we are, what's going on. Most of what we believe is going on in our subconscious mind anyway. So we've got to and that could be a self-fulfilling prophecy, either for negative or good, depending on what you want to believe. Or which one you choose to feed, like they say. Which one are you going to follow?
And I think, and that's such a great point, Roseanne. I think we feed the wrong one because that's what most people are doing.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, well, how can I be wrong if that's what most of culture, most of society is saying? Well, we're following the masses. Sometimes the masses are wrong. As a matter of fact, we follow the mass, we ought to be going the other way than most people. Because the thinking is really out of alignment with what I believe, how we were intended, the intention from the Creator was that we're not all alike.
Right.
And we know that as women of faith. And yet we live in a culture where it's really hard to wrap our arms around that. And to know I'm created to be an individual. Absolutely. Yeah, we're under the wrong, we're under hypnosis, all right. It's just the wrong one. We're hypnotized. So we need to dehypnotize. Anybody else want to make a point about that? I love what he says in this chapter on rational thinking. He writes, one of the reasons that the power of rational thinking goes unrecognized is because it's seldom used. I really love that he wrote that. And I remember the first time I went to John Maxwell conference, and I was sitting there in the coaching session, and I really had never thought about being a coach before. And when Christian Simpson is just one of the most brilliant people in the world. He's got that English accent, so he's super dashing on top of it. And he just said, most people don't think. People think that they think, but most people don't think. We are never taught in school how to think. We're taught what to think. And he goes, that's the power of coaching. He goes, that's the power of coaching. He goes, right now, if you guys know some basic principles, coaching is about you bringing someone else to their best level of thinking, not me telling them. That's what I thought coaching meant. I had to be the smartest person in the room. Like, well, how do I coach a mega agent? I've never been one. How do I coach? And my chiropractor's been a client of mine. How do I coach a business owner? How do I coach a mom? And the truth is, coaching is not about me telling you something. Coaching is about me making you aware of your resources within. And to me, this is what chapter 4 and chapter 5 in the book in Psycho-Cybernetics are about: dehypnotizing ourselves and using the power of rational thinking. Somebody's dog.
I'm sorry.
Oh, don't apologize. It's just cute. So one of the things that I'm hoping that we really pick up steam on, at least while we're together, is to question our thoughts. And in the book, he sort of had a little bit of a process in chapter 5. If there's something that you want to ask yourself, is this true? How can you examine some of your beliefs? And I'm going to post this on Facebook. He writes, is there a rational reason for such a belief? Like something like Alyssa was talking about, well, I can see all this good in someone else and I can see them achieving their dreams. So is there a rational reason for that belief? Could it be, another question, could it be that I'm mistaken in this belief? Another question, would I come to the same conclusion about another person in this situation? Why should I continue to act and feel as if this were true if there's no good reason at all to believe it? We just believe things out of habits, programming. And we all know how hard it is to change a habit, right? Oh my gosh. I mean, there's been a million books written on changing habits. Well, our thinking is sort of habitual. We've just gotten into these thinking ruts about the way we see ourselves, about judging, about comparing, and it doesn't make us bad people. It's just the way we've been conditioned most of our lives. Yeah. The dog is agreeing with me, Tanya, by the way. Okay, so what insights or what ahas, what do you guys want to add to that?
I think that it's so much easier to believe, the negative things that people say to you, or the negative things that you say about yourself. Because, I grew up in a really great home where I had parents that, told me all, I could be anything I wanted to be and, all that stuff. But I can remember just a few comments of people, saying you're not good at this, or you're not cut out for this, or those kind of things. And those hit deeper, unfortunately, than the things that are good. And I hate that that's true. Because
it is true though, isn't it? And I hate that too.
Yeah.
It's such, that's why it's work. That's why it's growth, because it is really hard to combat that bad stuff. It is really those false beliefs. Oh, is that Chestnut? Hey, Chestnut. Now we got to hear Tanya's dog. Now we got to see one of Kathy's dogs.
Oh,
Cute.
It's just the mindset and working on our self-image, our mindset, it's really the work of our lifetime.
Right.
It really is, because it's the painful stuff that strikes hardest, and that's what stays with us the most. Yeah.
And I think I read somewhere our brains are wired to go negative way more than positive because of survival. I think that's how we were wired. So you really have to be careful, because I know I go there. Good grief. I have to stop myself. I'm my own worst critic.
I've read the same thing, Roseanne. We're hardwired for that in so many ways. And that's why when we take certain classes like this, get around other like-minded people. Remember in Bold, I remember thinking, and when I first got to Keller Williams, even before there was a Bold, and they talked about affirmations, I thought, these people are really crazy. Like, this is really corny. I'm supposed to say this, like, I'm a great salesperson. I'm a money magnet, I'm like, oh, okay. And it just feels foolish. And that's why I think we don't do it. And then you go to Bold and you have to do it with your partner every day. And I remember thinking sometimes, wow, one of my last Bold partners and I, our affirmation partners, we were like, you start getting into this. Like, I'm starting to feel something as a result of saying this. It's the work. It's really work to rewire our brains, and that's what affirmations do. Affirmations, it's been scientifically shown that when we do our affirmation work, it creates a neural pathway in our minds, so that when these negative things rise up, because they always will, that our brains can go back to this positive place quicker if we're creating those neural pathways in our brain. It's just, it's work. It's consistent work, just like anything else. Just like if I don't, if I want to lose the weight, I better put down the banana bread that my mom made. You know what I mean?
You're in trouble.
Yeah.
You're in trouble.
Regina, do you think that some of the negative self-image is relative to being taught to be modest and not arrogant. And so when somebody offers a compliment, oh, you're so smart, or oh, gee, that was great, or you're so kind, you go, no, really, I'm not. Maybe it's an age thing or whatever, but that just feels like the right thing to do. And eventually, I think you believe your own self-talk when you're being modest.
I could not agree more with that. As a matter of fact, during our Think and Grow Rich study, which again, I'm in one now with Paul Martinelli. This is my third Think and Grow Rich. It's the best course on mindset ever. And we talked about that. And he says, why, when someone pays you a compliment, can you not say thank you? Somebody jumped on a call and asked a question, and he got into this whole thing about that. And he said that type of humility. Do we have another dog in the midst? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I'm the only one who doesn't have a dog. I'm gonna get a dog. that form of humility is actually rebellion. He did a whole teaching that when we stop someone, and think about it this way, this is also something that he said in another program that really hit me hard. If we can't take a compliment, how can we truly give a compliment? The way we receive, that's the way we give. So if I'm holding back on accepting that compliment, is there something in the compliments I give to other people? That had me up one night when he said that. I was like, yikes. But he said humility is rebellion. Because that's because of exactly what you said, Lynn. Because we're like, no, it wasn't me. No, it was, oh no. That kind of, from now on, say thank you. I learned that. So it's been tough. And people in the class today were saying very nice things. And a couple times I just said, wow, thank you. Thank you. I don't have to say anything else. I don't have to analyze it. I don't have to look at it too deep. If I just said something and you like it, my best response is thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Who else has a problem with that?
Oh, I do.
Okay, talk to us.
I had when I was in the corporate world, I had a manager tell me that I did not know how to take compliments well. And I even faulted him on that. I was like, yes, I do. And then I started asking some of my friends and my husbands, and my husband, he's like, yeah, you really don't take compliments well. And I really started analyzing it, and I found out that if he didn't say, you did a good job, and made it personal for me versus good job, like I didn't think, I don't know why I had to hang up about that, but I have over the years had to just smile and say thank you. And I get a lot of practice at doing that because often when I teach, people come up and say good job. And I don't want to downplay for them to give me the praise, because then it makes them feel insignificant. Right. So.
Right. I was hoping somebody was going to hit on that. That's exactly what that does. So
Yeah.
If I say, wow, you did such a great job, Tanya, and you're like, no, I'm thinking, okay, well, I guess I'm wrong. You
Right.
know, there is something when we don't just allow that person to tell us that. You know, what are we taking away from that other person? They're just trying to appreciate something you said, something you did, and what mindset do we have to be in when we say, oh, no. And I know, Kathy, you said you have a tough time with that one too. Now, you don't have to say anything. I just didn't know if you wanted to chime in. You're muted.
She's still muted.
You're still muted. And I didn't do that, so I don't think I can undo it as the host. Let me go in there, though.
Sign language, Kathy.
Okay, Kathy, there we go. I've unmuted you.
Oh, there you go. Oh, no.
You're unmuted, and we still can't hear you.
Oh no, what happened? How about now?
There you go.
Oh, okay. So I think Alyssa talked about it just a minute ago, but for me, it is about the bad is so much easier to hear than any good. And so when somebody does say good to you, sometimes in the back of your mind, you're going, they're just fluffing me. They're
And why
just
would they do that?
saying.
And why would they do that?
Well, again, it comes back around to that it's me thinking it, it's not them saying it. And so changing the way you look at things changes, it changes everything. And that is, I mean, and you know this, that has been my focus literally for the last 3 months, is to not hear what I'm telling me, to hear what other people are telling me, and to not have success sabotage. So that's huge.
It really is huge, because people can tell. I mean, I've said this during most of my live talks, that like if this paper were my self-image, and this, I wrote down everything in my mind that I believe about myself to be true, this goes everywhere with me. So if all we do is give and receive energy vibes from each other all day, every day, how I feel about myself is not something that I can hide. Maybe for a moment or two, maybe in a quick conversation or two. How you genuinely feel about yourself is not something you can hide from other people, not for very long. And it's in every conversation, it's in every interaction. This is like the roadmap to my life, how I feel about me. And it goes everywhere with me. And that is the only thing that can truly push me forward. And that's the thing that's going to truly hold me back. Because you can't outperform your own self-image. It's a ceiling, it's a ceiling. So who else had a hard time taking compliments? Who has a hard time just saying thank you? Did you ladies want to chime in on that? I love what Kathy and Tanya Bird had to say. It's rebellion, the way Paul talked about it. I mean, I almost just cried one day. I was like, dang, because who are we not to be great at something? Who are we not to be great? And if somebody says that, what is wrong? And maybe this is rhetorical, maybe something you'll just be chewing on the back of your mind. What's wrong with just accepting it? What's the problem with just accepting it? So maybe experiment with it a little bit. Maybe say for the next week, for the next 2 weeks, or maybe have some sort of story that you can share at the end of this, where you just decided to say thank you. And I tell you what, when he said that maybe if you couldn't receive something like a thank you, if you couldn't receive a compliment, how are you giving? When he talked about it in that way, I think it was in one of the other Think and Grow Rich series that he did, but he always puts a new spin on it. And of course, we're always different, so we hear things differently. And when he said, if you cannot receive something, how are you giving? And we all want to say, well, I'm a great giver, right? I give all the time. I'm very generous. I don't mind doing for other people. And then if you mind if other people do for you, if you mind if other people say great things about you, are you sure you don't mind giving? Because it's the different side of the same coin. How are you giving really is a reflection of how are you receiving. And he beat that to death one day, and I thought, gosh, who am I being if I cannot say thank you? Who am I really being if I cannot say thank you? And what happens when I say it to someone else and they're not allowing me to say it? What's in my heart as I'm giving it, and what's in their heart if they can't receive it? That kind of hit a nerve one time, because I don't want to be I want my giving to be genuine. I want my you did a great job, or you look pretty today. I want that to be genuine. And if I can't receive it, how am I giving it? And when he talked about that one, I mean, that conversation went on for a while. And I thought that changed my perspective a lot. So from now on, I'm thank you. Oh, you like this dress? Great. I say, oh, this whole thing. Oh, this is nothing. No, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. Just smile and nod, and it gets easier. Yeah. What are our beliefs and our expectations about thank you? Tanya Anderson, you're muted too.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you've unmuted yourself. Perfect.
Don't you think though, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but my Southern Baptist roots, your parents just preached it in humility, humility, humility. And then it is so hard now to try to that fine line of accepting someone giving you praise versus, I don't know, it's just hard for me. And, you know, like even today was our awards thing, and
I saw you on Facebook, Missy. Come on, number 5 in your market center. Are you kidding me?
And yeah, I don't know. It's just, you put it out there for social media to stay up with the Joneses and to keep up and try to grow your business. And I was an individual, and you want, you know, but it's almost like walking up there, you're like, oh, I mean,
okay. I love that you're saying that. So say that again to us. How did you feel walking up there? You're called for the award. How did you feel?
And I sing on a praise team, and I do not get nervous one iota, but when you get me up there and they were like, Tanya Anderson, the number 5, blah, 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 you know, individual agent, I just wanted to crawl under the desk. I got nervous and my mouth started quivering a little bit.
Now tell us, why did you you worked really hard to be number 5 in your office. Why did you want to crawl underneath the desk?
I don't know. I want it, you know, but it's just like when you're brought up there, it's just like you're so, I don't know. I just am so humbled, and I don't know.
Now, a lot of things our parents and our teachers, they're well-meaning people, right? They loved us. They wanted the best for us. Think about some of the other things they told us. Don't talk to strangers. And we're supposed to cold call.
Yes.
You know, money doesn't grow on trees. Okay. You know, all kinds of things that they loved us and they meant well. And there's things they put in our mind that hold us back, not because they were mean people. They did the best they could at the time. Yeah. You know, everything. I think back on my upbringing. I had 2 wonderful parents, and I know they never meant to do any harm. There is a reason, though, that if you've worked that hard to be number 5 in your market center, and you want to crawl underneath the desk when your name's announced. I mean, who are you being in that moment, Tanya, that you can't accept, I've worked hard, let me have this moment? And how did you feel? Let me ask you this, if you want to comment on this, and this conversation is going to stay right here with us. How did you feel when other people's names were called that maybe were ahead of you? Were you chasing down anybody? Were you wanting to be higher on the list than you were?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you're not first, you're last.
Said our friend Ricky Bobby. Lord have mercy, a great piece of wisdom. If you ain't first, you're last.
Right.
So how did you feel when those other names were called?
I mean, I'm happy for him, but I'm thinking, okay, I can do this. In my mind, I'm thinking, I truly can do this. Why am I not? What is holding me back? I'm holding me back?
Right. I'm in love with you in this moment for exposing how you're thinking, because we've all been there in some fashion. So you want to crawl under the desk when it's your turn to receive praise for your hard work. And then when those other 4 agents are called, 1, 2, 3, and 4 that are ahead of you, you're like, dang, I want that to be me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, and I've had a couple of setbacks, like, you know, I just hired an assistant, and now she's seen everything I do, and she's like, I can do that, you know. And so now
she's supposed to go be an agent.
So I'm like, now she wants to go, and I'm like, not again, you know. And so I'm thinking, how can I overcome this? But I know I can. And I took your class because I believe it, and I'm going to do it. And I'm just got to keep, it is the power of your mind and self-image. And I know it all is. I hear everybody saying it. We all have these thoughts in our head that I'm not good enough as that. It doesn't matter. It's what we want. It's our goal.
It's who you believe you are.
That's
so
right.
From this whole gamut of emotions of today, something like an award ceremony, which really does test your mettle as far as your own self-image goes, whether you're on the, oh my gosh, they're calling my name, I want to hide, or, oh, I wish I were number 1. Wherever you are in that, I mean, what can be a big takeaway for you to use? How can you turn this into something that you can use? I mean, I'm asking for all of us. I mean, how do you turn that kind of moment into something that you can use?
Well, I was at the same award ceremony.
Okay, great.
And I would be the person that you would consider to be in last place. So I had all kinds of drunk monkeys going through my head today on who's bigger and better and badder than me. And as I was sitting there today, I kept thinking, I need to stay in my own lane and I need to do me and nobody else.
Good for
Right?
you.
Yeah.
But I struggled with the drunk monkeys for a moment before I was just like, no, I got to get this out of my head. I can't keep comparing myself to whoever's getting all these awards, you know?
It's freedom. It is so
Right.
much freedom, because you also have to have the desire. So when I look at the top agents in my office, and once upon a time when I thought, well, now, am I supposed to be this? Am I supposed to want this? I never truly had the desire. So am I just wanting something because I'm told that's what I should want, because here's the environment that I'm in, I'm supposed to want it? I can't tell you how much that held me back for a while from pursuing my true calling, because I thought, okay, I met Keller Williams. I'm supposed to want to have 7th level. I'm supposed to want all this. And I'm like, oh God, I don't want that at all. So even when we're looking at the people like the top 4 and we're number 5, or we're last on the list, and I'm last on my list, I'm sure. And is that even what you want? Or is that just what you're told you want? Do you even really want the life that it takes to be 1, 2, and 3, and 4? Do you want what they have to do? Do you want
I know what I'd like to do.
Okay.
But then it's kind of like a secondary goal for me right now, because what I would like to do is not going to pay the bills right now.
Join the club.
Agreed.
So what would you like to do?
I really love training people. So having the opportunity to do the Tech Roadshow trainer has been phenomenal for me. I enjoy going and meeting people at market centers. I enjoy teaching agents tech. I'm completely Kellerized, so I know that I could teach something like Ignite. And so a secondary goal for me is to become a KW faculty member, but that's long term. That's not something I can go, boom, I'm here overnight, you know?
You got to start someday.
You do.
With just a step. And so I love that you said you want to be a KW trainer.
Yeah.
And yet, if you're watching the award ceremony, because y'all two were at the same office award ceremony today, were you really envious of those other agents?
My problem, and I think this is where all my drunk monkeys are and all my negative thought processes, some of it comes back from the junk from my childhood, is that I know how to do all this stuff. I just don't do it. So why does it stop me? Why is it that I can get up and tell everybody how you're supposed to lead generate, what the models are, all that stuff, and yet I can't get my own self into action because I don't have belief in myself?
Is it that you don't have belief, or that you don't have the desire?
Well, I've struggled with this because I like the teaching more. I do, but then I have to kind of flip it as I could teach clients how to buy and sell, right?
I love it. You're trying to use what you really want to do training. Let me go train some clients. I think that in your case, you don't desire to be that top agent. You desire to be that top trainer.
Yeah, but how do I get there to make a lot of money doing it? That's the question.
Listen, that's the question of my daily life.
And our bowl coach, I had the opportunity to meet our bowl coach last year, and he actually told me, he's like, why do you think I have a big team? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, why do you think I have real estate investments? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, because I love to be a bold coach, and those things leverage my time so I'm able to be a bold coach, because bold coaches don't make a lot of money and it takes up the most time. So I really took that to heart of how could I grow something so fast that I could then leverage myself, and it can kind of run over here and I can make that money, and then I can go off and do this training thing that I like to do.
I mean, that's really sort of the question for all of us, is like, how do you get on the path to do what you really want? And in the meantime, how do you keep your beliefs and your thinking in check so that they don't start to run away? Because I don't believe that you couldn't be a top agent for a second if you didn't want to be. And I think that's what confused people about me. Like, oh my God, you could do that in a heartbeat, Regina. Yeah, I don't have the desire to. That's the bigger problem I'm facing, is I had to get real about that. And I'm fortunate that between our business and my husband's job, I could really take a close look at that, because I have participation in our business, and my husband also has a job that he loves, and I could sort of run with this, because I had been holding my own self back, because for so long I thought I'm supposed to want what they want. Now, it's not that we can't do real estate and this. Real estate provides a great lifestyle because we can leverage our time in different ways. So only you can figure that the particulars out for you, Tanya. In the meantime, the thinking, I don't think for a second you sat there today and thought, I wish I were number 1. I wish I were number 10. I wish I was not 20. I don't think that at all, because that's not even the life you desire. You desire to be the next top trainer.
Yeah.
Not the next top real estate agent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you control your thinking in the meantime? And it's like, okay, I'm supposed to want what everybody else wants. That's the same thinking around, I'm supposed to be what everybody else is. No, there's a unique path for all of us, even whether it's all in real estate or whether it's just different paths in life. There's a whole different format, and we're trying to make ourselves, because of our beliefs, because of the way we've been programmed and conditioned, that we're supposed to want what other people want. Just like with you, Tanya, you were like, oh, I wanted to crawl, Tanya Anderson, I wanted to crawl under the table, and yet I also wanted to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah. I mean, you'll search your heart and you'll find out. Yeah. But in the meantime, we gotta get our arms around our beliefs and our own thinking that's getting in the way and that's self-sabotaging us. And again, I just ask, the life that you're chasing down now, is that really the life that you want? And I'm not trying to get anybody out of a job or not trying to cut anybody off from the next commission check. Is that the life that you want? Because I think that's also playing a role in all of this. I was trying to bring up in the digital workbook, there were some lessons on belief. And I was going to touch on that first one, which I happen to have written down on my notes. There were 6 different principles on belief, and in this conversation we've been touching on some of them, and so let's continue to do that. Let me bring your attention to belief principle number 1. It's in that digital workbook under session 2. Beliefs are the result of a learning process and not a reflection of reality. Isn't that great? Just because I believe it does not make it true. And yet, sometimes you find yourself thinking that your beliefs are like the gospel, the truth, and you don't understand why some people don't believe the same way you believe. Yeah, beliefs are not a reflection of reality. Yeah. And if you think about that saying, it's one of my favorite sayings in the world, that we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. So how can our beliefs be a reflection of reality? They're just a reflection of the way we see reality. I might believe something totally different than the rest of you. So that was like a great principle if you've looked at the 6 of them. And that other one, I'm trying to bring up my workbook. And that other one was, another one I had written down is, we don't start out with beliefs, we acquire them over time. We acquire them over time. So again, one of the things we're trying to look to peel back is, what are the beliefs inside of us? Where do they come from? And we don't even have to go that deep. Sometimes it's interesting and it helps. How do we get rid of them now? Like, we don't come into this world with any beliefs. Well-meaning adults, well-meaning family members and friends. Sometimes we look at those reactions, our embarrassments, our failures, sometimes our successes. They leave an imprint on us, especially the painful ones, especially the traumatic ones. I mean, I think about it like this. Before 9/11, that was like a sudden thing that happened and shook all of our belief systems, right? So something that sort of sudden, that painful happened, and we were all shaken, and we will all be changed, because who can ever fly again? I'm flying tomorrow. Who can ever fly again and not be changed by 9/11, right? That was sudden, and that was in a moment. Most of our beliefs don't happen that way, except if you think back to childhood, and we all have the moments when we were laughed at, Maybe, like we talked about, you go to the blackboard, you work out a problem, people are laughing at you, you read out loud, maybe you've got a weird voice, maybe you say the wrong word. Sometimes those sudden moments, like 9/11, like those key moments in childhood, you're like, I'm never going to forget this, when the whole class laughed at me. Most of our beliefs just come over time. A little seed's been planted, something else has been planted, somebody says something to us, our parent, our teacher says, you're never going to make it, you're not pretty enough. That repetition happens. Repetition's how most of our beliefs come to be. Not that sudden 9/11, or not that moment where, like if you're me in the 6th grade, so I wear dresses a lot now, not every day. I wear dresses a lot. For a long time, I didn't wear dresses because I had a painful moment. In the 6th grade, I went to a private school for a little while, and I wore a wrap dress, and my dress did not wrap all the way around in the back when I came out of the bathroom in the 6th grade. Oh, so God. I come walking back into the classroom, and part of my dress, the back side, is up. So from that moment on, I was like, I'm not wearing another dress ever again in my life. I mean, I was scarred. And now I wear dresses all the time. And it didn't happen overnight that I got this way. It happened, I had to talk it through, you guys. That was kind of painful. I was in 7th grade, actually, 7th grade private school. And my dress wasn't wrapped all the way around. And I had a belief that I could never wear a dress. I'm never wearing a dress. That was just my thing. It was in my mindset. Now I wear dresses all the time. I don't think I've ever worn a wrapped dress that wrapped all the way around again. My point being, things happen to us and we get traumatized and things are said to us. And that's what we're going to peel away. These beliefs, these weird thinking patterns that we have. We don't start out with beliefs. We just acquire them over time. And because we acquire them, guess what? We can also get rid of them. I went to coach a skills camp in 2015, right outside of Austin at the Lost Pines Resort, with Diana Kokoska and some other KW coaches and about 300 people there. So it was nice. And Diana said, and I'll never forget this, you may not be able to control the first thought. You can control the ones after that. It's thought number 2, thought number 3. I loved when she said that. You may not be able to control the first thought. You can control the second one. And I thought, dang, that's really good. So it just made me so aware that however I'm feeling in this moment, ladies, this is hard to say. If I'm thinking this way in the next moment, if I don't like what I'm thinking about in this moment, okay, maybe I can control the first thought. I can control the rest. Because if I can't, who's going to control my thoughts for me? Who's going to control? I mean, our favorite book says, seek first the kingdom within us, right? It's so hard to believe, isn't it, that we have control over our minds and our thinking? Doesn't it feel like it's out of control sometimes? Or is that just me? Do you ever feel like your thinking is like out of control?
Daily.
Kathy's like, rolling around at home. Yeah. And so I just ask you, if you're not going to control your thoughts, who is? What is? Who's in control of the thoughts you think? Tanya, Kathy, Alyssa, Rosa, Lynn, who's in control of your thoughts? I got to pull this up so I can get to this workbook so we can talk about it next week. I mean, our beliefs are serious business because they control our lives. And we've all talked about, and I love the vulnerability and the openness about the award ceremony. That's something I love talking to the new agents about because they're like, how do I get my name in lights? And how I'm like, and then when I peel back on some of those people, almost half of them don't even want to be a mega agent. So I'm talking about, do you really want to build a big team? And, Keller Williams will take you as a small agent or as a large agent. You decide. And when we peel back and we have some of those conversations, like, how do I become like the top 10 in our office? How do I become like so-and-so? Half the time, they don't even want that. It's just something in their head because they're at Keller Williams or because now they're in real estate. So they have to go a really big team. They have to be super successful, have all these closings. And they love when I say this because, you know, we were in mega camp and family reunion. You see these folks on stage. You guys have seen Ben Kinney and some of these other guys on stage. What did Ben Kinney, I think it was at mega camp last, something about like they had 500 closings with all the expansion. Oh, maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's like 1,100. I'm getting him confused with somebody else. So one of them was like 1,100. I would put a bullet in my head if I had to know something about 1,100 transactions, even 500. Girls, if I had to know about more than 20 or so in a year, I would, yeah, you don't want to know me. That's not even something that I want. And yet all these agents are thinking that's what I'm supposed to want. We got to check in on our own beliefs. Now, I want you guys to speak into that a little bit. If somebody has something they want to share, I want to pull up the rest of this list. And I want to talk about for next week. I just didn't have my other browser open.
So my computer just died.
I wonder what happened to you.
Just went black. Although, you know, I'm really fascinated by all of this as I intend to really grow myself inside out and recreate all of these thoughts, because the old thoughts have done me really no good. They've brought me to a certain level, yet because I let the limiting beliefs come back in, I hit the ceiling, and when I hit the ceiling, I bounce back down to the ground again. And then it's just that whole vicious cycle, and then I start to get to that ceiling, and I go, oh, I don't really want to bump my head. It might mess my hair up. I take myself back down. And that is a cycle that is, I didn't realize how devastating it has been to me. So I just really find it, you know, interesting. And then I think your gut tells you a lot more than it does. And it's living by those beliefs that, you know, you have something bigger inside of you, and stop listening to your own thoughts.
Boy, our thoughts. I'm so glad you said that, because sometimes I'm thinking, if that belief or that thought is not serving me, why in God's name am I still walking around with it? If you know a particular thought is not serving you, why are you still walking around with it? We see another dog. Oh my gosh, I'm getting a dog just so I can have a dog to bring, you know, when I see you girls. Has anyone written affirmations or working on affirmations, or anyone kind of consistent with affirmations now?
I decided to write affirmations, and I just finished a 66-day challenge, so I wanted to start a new one, and I decided to do affirmations, that I would say affirmations every day, and I really have negative thoughts around affirmations, so I was like, well, I'm just going to get that out of my head as well. And I took all after sitting down and doing this exercise and all the things that weren't working for me, I realized that a lot of my talk has to do with things that my mother fed into me when I was a child. And so I pretty much took those negative things that she used to say to me and made them into positive affirmations. So I could reprogram, like, so that when I don't go around saying, like, what's wrong with you? Then one of my affirmations is nothing is wrong with me. And I also took one of Gary Keller's quotes from the Tech Roadshow, which is he talks about how speed and innovation is what we need and not perfection. So one of my affirmations.
Oh, that's good, isn't it?
Right. So one of my affirmations is perfection is overrated because Gary Keller said so.
And if Gary Keller said so,
right,
and he's being compared to Steve Jobs, so we can listen to him.
Exactly.
And you know, I'm so glad you said that, Tanya, because one of the things I heard, some of the gang that was at our ALC retreat, and then I was over the North one at Market Center, and we're going to wrap up in just a second. And they came back and they said, you know, Diana talked about not being perfect, just being out there. Or being out there, being first to get to clients, being first to get yourself out there, and not worrying about perfection. And we always hear failing forward, right?
Yeah.
Is it easy to embrace all of that? No.
No, that's why you got to say the affirmations, right?
That's right. That's why you got to say the affirmations. I didn't get nearly down this list of principles and belief. It's on page 40 of the Self-Image Mastery Guide. So that's a great place for us to pick up next week to really draw out these 6 principles of belief, as well as why are you here on page 41 of the workbook. Think about all the reasons for your successes and failures. Where are you stuck? Why are you stuck? Where did you win? Where are you stagnating? So there's a whole list of other questions. And I would love between now and next Wednesday, when you have some time when you're go through some of these questions and really dig in, because what's great isn't the book or isn't me sharing from the book or my own. It's really when we all chime in. And I like to see the conversation go in certain places. I would rather not get through all of it and have had some great conversation like we had today, something real like the KW Awards ceremony. Oh my gosh, that's always a moment, isn't it? When your name is called, it's a moment you want to hide, and when your name's not called, then you want to hide. You know, I like talking real life issues. I like talking about what's really holding us back in everyday life. So the fact that you girls brought some of that to the call, I love. Tanya, are you trying to talk and you're muted again? Tanya Anderson?
You hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So, I mean, it's not that I wanted to hide. It's just, I don't know, I guess it's just what what your parents have just instilled in you over the years.
And what do they instill in you? Be humble, right?
Yeah. So it's hard to be humble and be boastful. You know, you.
Is it being boastful to accept an award for hard work?
No. I mean, I hear you, Mama. I'm trying. That's why I'm in your class. But,
I mean, so this would be a great one, especially coming off today's award ceremony. Like, is that level of thinking serving you? That, oh, I got this great award, and yet I got to be humble. I can't really lean into it fully. I can't really fully appreciate it because I'm supposed to be humble. Is that serving you? Or can you just take this award today and think, yes, all my hard work in 2018 paid off?
Yes. And I got to do better at that for sure.
Yeah,
I can fake it on the outside. I truly can. You wouldn't know it. I fake it, but and that's how I'm successful in my business. And that's what I tell all the new agents. Listen, I was a first grade teacher for 11 years. I have a master's in education. It took me forever to pass the real estate exam. And I finally did. And I just said, I can do this and I'm going to do it. When I put my mind to something, I do it. And you just fake it until you get there.
And we talked about this in some of the live classes I did, that we put our head down and we work. And even you and I kind of talked separately. You have been a workhorse in real estate. I mean, I had no idea. I'm your number 5 in your market center. You just head down, plow through, got the job done. And then you have to look at, well, who was I being? Because beliefs drive behavior. So you got the work done and you have great results to show for it. And then you have to think, what's my mindset like? What are my beliefs like? What am I expecting like? Is all of that serving me in some way? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the onion that we're peeling through for all of us in different ways. Yeah, so I'm so glad you guys shared today. That was so awesome. I like the real life share. So as you're doing your homework or things happen between now and next week, bring that here because you guys opened up tonight. I mean, we were all new last week. Lord knows I was having my own set of technology issues last week. And I like the sharing. I don't care about the workbook and the book. I care about the real life, what we can offer each other, because that was great, vulnerable conversation from both Tanya's about the award ceremony, from Melissa, from Kathy, from everybody. So that's what makes this so unique and such a great moment. I'm honored that you guys would choose to spend time with me and each other working on this. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who has a question or a last thought as we wrap up? Because what we'll do is, like I said, on the digital workbook, and I know Kathy doesn't have a copy, so if someone else doesn't have a copy, just please feel free to shoot me an email or a text. We're going to look through those. We're going to start next week by looking through those 6 principles of belief and talk about the questions in section 2 on page 40 and page 41.
Now, Regina, is there I know, I think I got the email of the book, the workbook. Is there a book?
I'm talking through Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Malta. You don't have to read it, and Lord knows if you did. I've been jumping out of order a little bit just because I got so swept away in that hypnotist chapter.
So good, though. Such a good book. You should read it. It's really, really good.
It really is. I mean, I can't believe some of the stuff that he writes about. And this was on the forefront of it all back in the 60s. A plastic surgeon turned into this whole psychological discovery.
Is that the guy that you put on the Facebook? Is that who he is or no?
No, that was Bob Proctor. That was a video that Bob Proctor did about the cybernetic instruments. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But we're using the original text and guide. I think I put the link in one of the emails, or at least to tell you that we're using the original. It's just a great book. Some of it I have to read 2 and 3 times, the sentences or the paragraphs, and other things I'm like, they take my breath away, and my mind's racing about it. And we can supplement our conversations with all of this stuff. I'd rather hear the real life stuff that we're all talking about. And why won't, and think on this question, you guys, until next week, why won't we let our friends into our house unless it's perfectly clean? I had a conversation before Christmas with some friends in the market center about this. It was an awesome conversation. And I want to talk about that as a self-image. Why do we not let people in our house unless it's clean? Anybody else suffer from that?
Because you don't have yourself together, and people will judge you if you don't have yourself together.
And yet I love going to somebody's house when it's not perfectly together, because I think, whoosh, I wish Leslie were on the call, because she was one of the people in the office that day. We were having this conversation, and again, I know we got to go, we're over time. And I said, I go to Leslie's house, it's not perfectly clean. I'm always so happy because she's already Leslie Kunkel, those Kunkels, right? She's already such a big deal in our market center ever since the day I got there. And now she and Steve are owners in a new market center. And I'm thinking, oh my God, thank you, Leslie, that your house isn't perfect, because then I'd have to hate you. And we do that. And I love that she doesn't have any of that when it comes to that. We had a whole great conversation about that. I saw my notes, because I actually, in December, I thought about this class, and I thought, let me take some notes around what we're talking about, and I'll share that with you guys, because I like the real life stuff, because we're out here fighting the battle of self-image every day. And so thank you, ladies, so much for spending time with me tonight.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing you guys next Wednesday. And then I'm also going to announce, I'll pop in, I'll have a bonus session probably that Thursday after, or that Friday, and I'll announce a time and in advance. And if you guys can join me for a 30 or 60-minute additional session, I would love that. Any questions? You guys know how to find me. Call me, text me, email me. I'm so honored. I love you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.